show up and then turn up. We 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 show up and then turn up.
What's up, guys? I'm Landon from Shoeware, and today we're putting the newest models from LeBron James and Paul George's shoe lines with Nike head to head to see how they compare. But really quick, if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. But now taking a quick look at the box and price. The LeBron 19s have a lot of details going into this black box. They kind of have like a Space Jam like pattern kind of going on for these, since that is kind of a collab that I'm going to get to here in just a second. But I do also like how the LJ logo is see-through on top. But switching it over to the PG5s, these have sort of a camo design that's going to also show up in a small section of the shoes too, so I do kind of like that. But as for pricing, there is a pretty big price gap here with the LeBron 19s, or I guess LeBron's just shoe line in general, having the most expensive signature shoe line on the market right now at $200 even. But you know, as for the PG5s, these are going to fall on the far more affordable side of the scale at $110.
More money, more problems, more drugs inside my stomach, even though
Alright, so it's checking out the appearance for these shoes and starting off with the colorways. Today we have the Nike LeBron 19 sweatsuit versus the PG5 Daughters. So this LeBron 19 sweatsuit colorway was actually the first one to hit the market. It is kind of part of like a Space Jam collab or theme. You kind of saw that show up on the box a little bit, but if you peel back this top layer and look at the markings on this upper, you can kind of see through it a little bit on this design. Those markings are actually supposed to like make out the Nike World Headquarters and the Warner Brothers lot. So I mean, there's just some really cool details on this shoe. But looking at the design itself, there are some noticeable switches from this year to last year's design. So for starters, they did build this design up a lot higher. So, you know, in my opinion, that does make this look a little bit more like a shoe from LeBron's line. But you're also going to have a little bitty air bubble. I guess it's not super small, but it's kind of a little air pocket that's like up around the ankle. It kind of runs around the back of the design for the shoe too. So, you know, I thought that was pretty cool. And just, you know, overall, the LeBron 19s have a pretty nice look. But switching it over to the PG5s, I will say that they definitely simplified this year's design. So, you know, for starters, they did take off that zipper that was on the PG4 model. So it's like the zipper was like a different variation to what a lot of shoes use, like as a strap. It reminded me of like Gary the Glove Payton's shoe line, but I really did like it. So, I mean, as far as like that piece, I do miss that. But this pink patch that you're going to see on the upper here has that camo pattern from the box like I was referencing. But, you know, it's not really the most aesthetic look, but yeah, I do like how low top shoes look. So these are all right with me.
more money, more problems, more drugs inside my stomach, even though
Alright, so now getting more into the performance side of things, I'll start off with the cushioning first. So we do have two extremely comfortable shoes here. The LeBron 19 is going to have Cushlon foam in that midsole, so that is meant to be a little more soft and responsive than the Phylon midsole. But, you know, these LeBron 19s, of course, do have a really nice feel. You're also going to have a Zoom Air unit in the forefoot that is paired with some like thick Max Air units that you can actually kind of see. They're visible through the side of that shoe, but you know, you can honestly see them at work whenever you're applying pressure to the shoe, and the impact protection is super nice. This is definitely a soft shoe to play in, and then a lot of the same things can be said for this PG5 model. So this design actually made my top 5 shoes of the year to play in from 2021. The PG5 uses a full-length Air Dot Strobel unit that is just super comfy. Like Nike even puts in their bio about how the PG5 is meant to feel like you're walking on a cloud, and you know, that definitely checks out for me. So a really balanced cushioning setup, that's one of the major selling points for the PG5, and honestly especially for the LeBron 19 too.
more money, more problems, more drugs inside my stomach, even though
Alright, so now for the materials. The LeBron 19 made a pretty big pivot from the like knit posit design on last year's LeBron 18, and they honestly added some nice pieces. So these are going to have a full inner sleeve that kind of conforms to your foot, and the laces actually kind of feed up through that overlay to give you a little bit more of a tighter feel. These also have a little outrigger on the side of this year's design just to give you somewhat of a wider base, but there's also a transparent fly wire cable that kind of extends up from the midsole. You can kind of see it on the inner and outer patch of these shoes. But you know, all of these pieces honestly add to the support, making it 1,000 times better than the LeBron 18. Like, that knit design had so much give. Like, there's no real pieces from the LeBron 18 last year that are really geared for support, but you know, like I just referenced on here, I mean, there's multiple. So I do love the changes that Nike made to LeBron's shoe. But switching it over to the PG5s, you know, a cheaper shoe is kind of going to equal some lesser quality materials just across the upper. These do have some TPU overlays on there, but honestly, it's definitely a breathable shoe. But you know, lower tier materials, to the PG5's credit, it's honestly not going to affect the support at all. You have a wider base thanks to like a very noticeable outrigger that kind of extends from the PG5, but you know, there's also multiple white patches that extend up from the midsole that, you know, give you a more secure feel, help keep your foot inside of the shoe. So I will say this is maybe not a big man shoe just with, you know, how thin the upper is, like those materials used on it. But I mean, so far I've been really impressed just with how they've held up. I'm just really glad though that the LeBron 19 line is just a little bit more playable for me now, because you know, I turned my ankle a few times in last year's LeBron 18, so it is nice to see that they at least, you know, threw some pieces on this shoe to kind of focus on giving you a more secure feel. Something quick to mention though is that with all those materials, that is going to kind of lead to the LeBron 19 being on the heavy side. The PG5s are super light and easy to move around in though.
More money, more problems, more drugs inside my stomach, even though
So to finish off with traction, LeBron's shoe line hasn't really thrived in this category for the last few years, and you know, they may be improved from the struggling design last year that didn't play all that well, but it's just not really by enough in my opinion. So these do have a new pattern that's kind of meant to resemble that LJ logo, kind of condensed down, and you know, I guess it plays okay, but it's definitely not a sticky feel or anything like that. You still are going to have some slipping going on. But for the PG5, you know, I did mention how the cushion is one of the selling points for this shoe, but honestly, the traction is just right there with it for this model. So the PG5 is going to use the exact same traction pattern from the Kobe 9, and these are just a beast on the court. The pattern's actually pretty cool too, because it's kind of meant to resemble the human foot, you know, what that looks like, and then the grip is just really nice on the court. So I do like that the materials, you know, the materials are a little bit cheap, but the support is still good, which, you know, is kind of important on a shoe like this, because I just recently reviewed the Puma Fusion Nitro, and you know, that shoe has insane traction, but it's got like a rubber upper. It's kind of what it feels like, and it just allows for your foot to like almost come all the way outside the shoe. But you know, since the PG5 has really good traction and, you know, definitely playable support, you don't have to worry about anything like that. But as for sizing, this is going to be a true to size fit for both of these shoes. It is going to be more narrow for the LeBron 19 compared to the PG5, so definitely keep that in mind. But you know, as far as like length goes, the sizing on these should be true to size. So for the final ratings, you know, both of these designs are nice. The LeBron 19 definitely has some cool touches on there. The PG5 has a little bit more of a basic look, but you know, I do tend to like low top shoes better. So since I'm not dead set on either, I'm just going to leave that section as a tie. But moving on to cushioning, both of these shoes have a super soft feel. The LeBron 19 ditched the 3 bubbles that ran up the tongue from last year's LeBron 18 that, you know, honestly wasn't very comfortable. I didn't like those 3 bubbles, so I'm definitely a fan that they did that. But you know, the PG5s are also super soft to play in, like I said. So both of these shoes have a really well-rounded cushioning setup, so I am going to stick with a tie here as well. But now moving on to the materials, you know, like I just hit on, the LeBron 19s retail for $200, so that's going to lead to them being able to just put more features on this shoe and just some higher quality stuff in general. So you know, the PG5s are going to lose out a little bit here, but you know, even with the LeBron 19 making those improvements to the support category, the PG5s I think keep pace with them here. The support isn't really affected by the lesser quality materials used, but you know, I at least do have to give some props to the LeBron 19 for improving dramatically in this area. But I am going to stick with a tie for that section. But then moving on to traction, it's just really not close here at all. There's definitely still some work to be done for LeBron's shoe line, to kind of put it nicely, but the PG5s, they did copy that Kobe design, like I said, and they just dominate for traction. So, you know, while I do like the LeBron 19 better than last year's design, I'm still going to end up siding with the PG5s for this performance battle. So, I mean, honestly, my 3 key factors whenever I'm looking at basketball shoes is like the cushioning, the support, and the traction. You know, any shoe that has all 3 of those categories covered is going to be really ideal, and that describes the PG5 perfect. there's really no weakness on the shoe at all. But you know, the LeBron 19 still needs some adjustments for the traction category, and then they're going to be right there with it. But I don't really want to pay $200 for a shoe that just doesn't have it all together for you. But for the low price of $110, it just honestly doesn't get much better than the PG5 in my opinion. All right, so just in case you're interested in purchasing one or both of these shoes and you want to support our channel, we are going to leave an affiliate link in the description below that you can buy these shoes and, you know, shave a little bit off the price whenever we check these out to review for you. But if you also want a more in-depth review on each one of these shoes, we do have individual reviews live where I go a little deeper into these models, so feel free to check that out. But that's actually going to wrap up this performance review. Feel free to leave a like or comment below, just whatever shoe you may want us to check out next. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoeware. Peace.